Hello, Amritji and Bhavna. Welcome to our podcast, the SOS show, again. And it's so lovely to have you here for this special episode on World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. So, thank you for being here again.
Hello, Sucheta. Nice to be with you again and look forward to a lively discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
So,
you.
just to start off,
Thank you. Delighted to
absolutely.
be here.
Thank you, Bhavna, for coming here again. And just to start off the episode, which is on caregivers, and Amrit sir being caregiver since 30 plus years to his daughter, and you running Caregiver Saathi, which is training caregivers, taking care of caregivers, and more. There has been a long journey of my family as well in terms of caregiving, and that's how we connected with Amrit sir, who's also the agony uncle, constantly trying to give advice as to what to do and how to take care of your own self as well. So, thank you for that. Just to begin on a very basic term of caregiving. Caregiver is not a term that we often use. And caregiver is also something that we do not understand. And I do not know if this is only in India or this is world over. What are your thoughts, beginning with Amrit sir?
See, in India, we have family caregivers. So we don't have paid caregivers. Paid givers are available. Agencies provide caregivers for Parkinson patients or dementia patients. But for mental illness, they are not trained. Uh, so, families play a big role in providing care to their family member with mental illness, and they do it just out of love and bonding with their family member. Uh, Elsewhere in Western Europe and in uh, North America, there is hardly any support given by the family. It is mostly support given by the state. So that makes it different from our way of doing things and their way of doing things. So because the support is given by the family, you see, things are being managed and it is running because from our government, although they are bound to provide support and care, and that is stated in the act, it is their obligation. But in reality, hardly anything has been done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, the difference in caregiving approach in India and abroad. Bhavna, what are your thoughts when it comes to the oft not understood word or used word called caregivers?
Thank you. One of my favorite questions these days is look at any of the languages in India and tell me what is a term equivalent to a caregiver. And some of the smart, digitally savvy people will quickly do a Google search and come up with a term like dekhbhal karta. And if you did like a thesaurus, you would come up with something like sevak, sahayak, timardar, all of which
Yeah.
are terms that are used for somebody who is an aide and not somebody who is a family member. So you will not use these words for somebody who's a family member. I was in an inner circle setting in which I asked this question, and somebody said that, for a family caregiver, the only term that I can use is apne. I thought it was
Hmm.
beautiful. And very often people say ma, right? And of course, ma is, a gendered term. And apne could be a beautiful term, but it is not something that highlights the caregiving aspect. Right. A lot of people who reach out to me because they know I have Caregiver Saathi would say something like, do you provide a caregiver or a caretaker?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
caregiver, caretaker are fungible terms in our language, right? So,
Yeah.
somebody who is not paid for their work, the terminology is shifting over the years. And I would agree with Amritji that certainly this was not a job that you could outsource. We still can't for mental illnesses. But for some other jobs, like maybe childcare or maybe some specialized needs, you could have somebody who is a paid attendant.
Mm,
But a family caregiver carries a lot of responsibility and therefore a
yeah.
lot of burden, because you're emotionally invested in that person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is where the challenge comes when it comes to mental health and mental illnesses, because the caregivers are carrying a lot of emotional, I would not say baggage, but something that they need to fall, or they need to get support and help elsewhere as well. So Amritji's journey of 30 years taking care of his daughter, when it began in 1990, Amritji, tell me, you were a strong pillar to your family and to your daughter at that point when you came to know about the illness. But at the same time, you at that point would have felt the need to reach out to somebody for help for your own emotional needs. What was it like at that point as a caregiver? And this is also specifically for every new person who can face a challenge suddenly in their life when it comes to mental health issues.
See, 3 decades back, when
Yes.
her mental illness surfaced or got triggered, we knew nothing about what mental illness is and what
Yes.
paranoid schizophrenia is. So that time awareness was not there at all, and since we were not aware, we didn't realize that how bad this illness is, and it will be a lifelong struggle. So she was in a boarding school in Dehradun, and they said they phoned me to say that she has a nervous breakdown almost. So the psychiatrist was good. And they took her to the psychiatrist, and he correctly diagnosed it as first episode of paranoid schizophrenia. So when she came to Bombay and I took her to a psychiatrist, that psychiatrist very foolishly said that this uh, treatment or medicines to be given have very strong side effects. Please don't do that. And she is okay now, so nothing needs to be done. That was a very, very wrong advice, which cost us very heavily. So then the internet had just started. Only Wikipedia I was having some information. So tried looking for that. I joined some self-help groups, getting some information from them. This Data Institute of Social Sciences, some information from them. So I could know a little bit about mental illness, and then I came to know about Nimans. So I went to Bangalore, met those people, and at that time, this clozapine, the main medicine for schizophrenia, it had just come in the market, not in India, but in Europe and America. So I talked to our psychiatrist, and I started importing it from Switzerland. So that we gave her, and with 100 mg, she seemed to become stable. So, but as it happens with families, due to ignorance, they went for a holiday to Dehradun, and there some homeopathic doctor advised them to stop it, and uh, he will give her the right medicines, and she will be okay. So that was stopped. I was very much against it when I came to know, and the psychiatrist was also unhappy, but they did not give her that medicine. So side effects were reduced, and they felt the homeopathic medicine is benefiting her. Naturally, after 2 3 months, symptoms reappeared and reappeared very strongly. So since then, the battle is going on. There is remission, there is a relapse. That kind of thing has happened 5, 6 times. So battle is on, and I think the battle will remain in my end. After that, it is between God and her. What happens to her? No siblings, nothing.
Absolutely, Amarji. The whole journey has been very tough, and I know your entire journey. A few challenges as a caregiver that you faced personally while you were battling this very important thing with the literature. Something that other caregivers, when they listen and they say, okay, yes, we are facing that, but now perhaps it can get resolved, maybe through Bhavna, maybe through somebody else listening to the podcast.
Uh, you see, the first challenge was acceptance that she has mental illness. So she was not
Mm,
accepting that. She was refusing to take medicine. So to convince her to visit a psychiatrist and to start
yeah,
taking medicine, that was the huge problem. And
huge.
uh, and then she was getting violent, aggressive.
Yes,
Sometimes
yes,
she would leave the house and
yeah,
suddenly go out. So we were not knowing where she has gone. I'll call the driver and look at the streets, and always having a fear that that will not go to the wrong hand and
yes,
molested or raped or killed. So those worries were very much there. So we would go to police and lodge a complaint. Police will say that complaint can be lodged only after 24 hours of her
yes,
disappearance. In 40 to 24 hours, so many things can happen. So I would bring some pressure on the local police, and we would look for her. So those were
yes.
main problems.
Huge,
And
huge, huge challenge, Amrji. Just butting in here, just
yes,
butting in here because you mentioned two very important points. One was acceptance.
yes,
Acceptance for the person who is caregiving to even think about the family members that somebody in my family has this issue. And second is trying to get help. These two very important things when it comes to mental health challenges. I'm not coming to you just to answer this bit. Uh, I'm sure that you have faced this when you have been talking to caregivers when it comes to accepting a severe illness and also trying to get help. What are your thoughts? How do you advise? How do you take charge of the caregivers when it happens, when they come with these questions to you?
Denial is a coping mechanism. We all would not want to
Yeah.
face something that is daunting. So knowing that a
Yes.
loved one has something that comes with the unknown can be quite daunting, right? So, for example, if somebody were to tell me someone that I have to care for, even a physical illness that I don't know enough about, and mental illnesses, of course, we don't know much more about, then it comes with
Yes.
anxieties, it comes with fears of the unknown, and it comes with a sense of loss. I think there is grief about an imagined life that I would have had, right? I would have had I would have had this relationship, whatever that relationship is, with my partner, with my child, with my parent. And now that might not be. So there is a sense of loss and there is a sense of grief. Our way of coping with all of this is through denial and believing and hoping that it will get better. So it's a very interesting thing because that ray of hope, that belief that things will get better, also energizes us. We can't let that go. At the same time,
Yeah.
we have to accept, right? So at the same time, we have to keep our feet on the ground. We have to say, okay, this is what it is. And now let's face it head on and take the next step. So I think doing that balance of accepting and yet holding on to some hope, knowing that there is a loss of one's imagined world or one's dreams, and yet moving forward is the tightrope walk that most caregivers need to walk. I have walked that myself, and I suppose
Yes.
that's how I read what Amritji just shared with us. Secondly, I would say that this whole thing about being hyper vigilant should something go wrong, my god, my child is out there, or my loved one is out there, what if something happens? So I need to be hyper vigilant is a draw on me. I have lived a life with hypervigilance because of whatever whoever I needed to care for, and it can lead to burnout. It can lead to exhaustion.
Yes, yes. So how can what should caregivers do at that point? Because Amritji at that point, 30 years back, it was something very new. He traveled the journey, but now we are more aware about mental health illnesses, about what we can possibly do. So, Bhavna, coming back to you, what are the things that the society, the government, or even organizations like yours are doing or thinking of doing in terms of making the caregivers more accepting of what the situation they're going to face?
So, Suchita, I would love for Amriji to also complete, his series of challenges that he has faced, and it would be lovely
Yes,
to hear the whole thing. Uh,
yes.
but in the meanwhile, I think that heightening awareness and acceptance. So, for example, finding ways of reducing the stigma is perhaps the biggest thing. I think that many things have happened over the years in which, in many areas, we have inched forward to reduce the
Hmm,
stigma, have greater sensitivity, and yet at the same
hmm,
time, there are lots of challenges because for whatever reasons, we are running out of compassion in society. Yeah. So I would just leave it for now to say that a greater sensitization, a greater awareness, and a greater
hmm,
sense of compassion has to be invested in on an ongoing basis. But I'd love to also hear what are some of the challenges that someone like
hmm,
Amritji has faced.
hmm. Amishi, coming to you in terms of a caregiver accepting that there's something that their family member is facing. That's a huge challenge. You must have taken some time, you and your wife would have taken some time discussing it, accepting it, and then trying to reach for help. When you look back now, Amaji, what are a couple of things that a caregiver can do when they face this challenge?
You see, Sucheta, in my view, this battle family has to fight alone. Help
Yes.
is generally not available
Yeah.
because the relatives, friends, they can help you
Yeah.
by coming one day and spending a few hours, or if you have to get something from outside. But on a
Yeah.
daily basis, no one will be able to help you. They have their own problems, and which they
Mm,
have to attend to. So, in my case, this 31 years, my wife and I had fought alone only, and
yeah. Yeah.
so, you see, she had no sibling, and my brothers, sisters, they had their own issues. So I've been fighting out, and this fight will continue till the end comes. So that
Mm,
is what we have been doing.
mm,
And
mm.
uh,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you see,
Yeah.
uh, what I believe strongly is that if awareness goes up, the stigma will come down. And then
Hmm.
stigma is mostly uh, within the family. Outsiders have
Hmm.
in the family, they want to hide the illness. They would not go to a psychiatrist because others will come to know. So they go to temples and places like that. Some black magic is there, this, that. So by the time they go to a psychiatrist, some 2, 3 years are lost. And then the illness becomes chronic, difficult to achieve remission. And in my case, see the realization that it is an illness which cannot be cured but can be treated came in another 3, 4 years' time. But my wife did not believe in this at all. He would say that God is not deaf, God will listen to our prayers. You see, she was not believing in any rituals, any religion, and when this happened, her life changed totally. You see, in our custom, you would know, Sucheta, that Mundan
Yes.
ceremony is there. So
Yes.
she would say, "No, we don't believe in this. This will not be done." My mother was unhappy, but she did not agree to it. So no mundans were done. And then after her illness, she thought because she did not do that, so that is causing this mental illness. So my daughter was teenager at that time. She tried to persuade her to shave off her head. My daughter did not agree. So she went to the temple and got torturing done on herself. So to that extent, it happened, and she would totally change. You know, she would do 4 hours of prayer, and 2 hours she would make my daughter also do the prayers. So whole life was changed. No socialization. Friends would not come to us. Relatives would not come to us. Or even if the invitation comes, it comes for myself and my wife, not for our child. So these were the various problems which
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
faced.
Hmm. So basically, everyone, every caregiver, when they face this challenge, has to stand up and help themselves. Tell me, Amriji, in terms of at that point, even now when you are still fighting for your daughter, keeping yourself resilient and emotional balance on your own. How do you do that? I mean, it is, it, I talk to you, I look at you, and I'm so inspired by you. But because you're not just fighting for your daughter, you're fighting for the system as well, and for everybody else out there. How do you keep yourself strong? What do you do?
Because there is no alternative. I have to fight. See, I can't leave things just like that, and I can't make my daughter suffer and just keep on watching. So whatever I can do for her, I do that. I know I cannot give her big joys, so I try to give her small, small joys. Whatever you she likes eating, I bring her that for her. Any clothes which she likes to wear, I bring that. So I try to give her these small joys and keep on trying for her recovery. I don't give up that and try to keep her happy, whatever I can do to do that. So that
Hmm.
battle will
Yes.
go. I don't expect any relief from the government. I don't expect any relief from friends and relatives. So I will keep on doing whatever. Fortunately, our symptoms are low now, and schizophrenia symptoms, hallucinations, etc., are no more there. OCD is there, and we are trying to see if those symptoms can be brought down.
Yeah. But coming to Bhavna, but you know, Bhavna, everybody is not as strong as Amriji. Amriji has fought and he said, and this is my thing, I'm going to keep doing this till whatever time I can possibly. But you must be having caregivers come to you who would be wanting some kind of a support to keep themselves balanced. What is it that you guys provide them with?
Thank you for that. I was getting gooseflesh as Amriti was speaking because, it's this infinite love for his child and his
Yes.
belief.
Yeah.
that he is there to care for her to the best of his capacity. And I mean, like,
Yes.
how lovely is that? Uh, and
Yes.
unfortunately, because of incredible family caregivers like himself, and so many invisible and unheard voices of family caregivers, it has not become a crisis that it actually is. Caring for another person, and
Yes.
because we are standing on these very, very strong shoulders, who are willing to uh, to do this on and on and on. We are not feeling the pain as a society. Okay, having said that, not everybody, like you rightly said, has the same level of resilience or endurance or ability to stay at it, and that's
Yes.
okay too. I don't think everybody can aspire for this kind of a gold standard. And people may have multiple other things to look at. Let's say somebody has other relationships to worry about, and that can be very draining. We believe that community has a big role to play, and we do believe that we are in a slightly different time. So it is okay to talk about some of these challenges. So we do create safe spaces like support groups where people can talk about their challenges without the fear of judgment, without the fear of being isolated. And we do believe that
Yeah.
not everybody can afford or can have access to mental health professionals. So, one on one support may not work for everyone. So, we do provide people with access to mental health professionals, which is one on one
Yeah.
support, but we do also provide a community to caregivers so that, just for example, today, one caregiver joined the community, asked a set of questions, and when others who are in the similar boat or have been in the similar boat share their stories, it doesn't feel like you're alone. And that per se is comforting, soothing, energizing to caregivers. The other thing
Yeah.
is that I think caregivers need access to information. For example, Amriji nicely pointed out that sometimes we can fear that some reason, some superstition, or that there is alternate therapies available and you don't need to do medication, etc. And this pieces of well-intentioned advice can derail the treatment. So having access to information quickly is something that caregivers need, and we do help with people having access to that, in terms of understanding what is it that you're dealing with. I don't think everybody understands when you're first diagnosed with whatever illness. You might
Yeah.
need to understand it well. So, having access to professionals, information that you can understand it well, understanding what it means for you is the next step, and then learning new things. We don't learn how to be caregivers in our schooling or our professional qualifications, but it is the biggest
Hmm.
role that we play vis-a-vis our family and our friends, and sometimes even our colleagues. So learning how to be a caregiver, not just physically but also emotionally and mentally, is a skill. Having the ability to access your compassion because you will run out of your compassion, okay, is also a skill. So, what we do is provide caregivers with safe spaces, access to professionals, and the learning resources so that they can access their compassion
Yeah.
regularly and on a long term basis so that they can then
Yeah.
care, is what we do.
So, of course, having your being part of a community enables you to face challenges and not fight it alone. Coming to Amit sir, SAR has got a community on WhatsApp which is for caregivers, and it has around 300 plus members. And I constantly read the messages of what anybody is fighting, and there's somebody who invariably answers the question, whether it comes to a psychiatrist or a doctor or getting various other informations. Amit sir, a few challenges that you would like to point out in the community, the SAR community right now, that caregivers are facing.
Yes, first let me elaborate on this peer support groups which Bhavna mentioned. Uh,
Hmm.
Strangely, our experience is not good at all. Before COVID, we were running a peer support group in our organization, and also we started in nearby towns in Maharashtra. But attendance was very thin. Outside Pune, if our people were going, as long as they were going, they had an anchor. The groups were running. The moment they stopped going, there was zero attendance. Uh, I tried to analyze why it is so, uh, and we were giving them transport also to bring them and leave them back. Some tea, snacks, etc. were given. Still, they were not, because somebody has some other work and they give more importance to that other work than attending the peer support group meeting. And sometimes these meetings would become repetitive also, because their experiences, when they're sharing those experiences, are common. uh, then we started during COVID online meetings of this group. Attendance improved a little because people didn't have to spend time in traveling. And then I thought this group about which you mentioned, WhatsApp group, and I was getting I was getting and I'm still getting lot many calls from caregivers about some advice, some what they should do in such and such circumstances. So I, as you I think mentioned that Uncle Agony. So I became Uncle Agony for them. So then I thought, since I have some 200 and odd uh, phone numbers, mobile numbers of these caregivers, why not start a group of theirs? So that group has become very, very, very active and very successful. And the reason I think is that the people don't have a fixed time when they have to assemble and watch. They can, at their convenience, they can see what messages have come and which ones they want to respond, give the advice. So initially, I was very active in that group, but now slowly I have withdrawn myself. And wherever I feel the need to intervene, or if somebody is going a little wrong, then that has to be corrected. There only I do that. So that has become now 325, and there are demands every day that please include us in your group. So somehow, by trial and error, we have reached at a point where it is a lot of good work being done through their our WhatsApp group, and which others can also start.
So, the challenges that you see
Huh.
that people in the group are facing as caregivers, a few of the challenges now.
You see, challenges are that here we are running, but we need so many such groups all over the country, and then only we can cover the caregivers population. And this is society. I think Bhavna mentioned about the role of the society. Now, there, I tell them whenever this question comes that who are the society? We are the society, because as WHO says that 1 in 4 persons have suffered mental illness sometime in their life. And then there's some studies which Lancet had done and Nimans had done. So Lancet study said 19.6% people uh, suffer from mental illness at any given time. So then, Indian Psychiatric Society had done a survey during COVID, and they said there is a 20% increase in this mental illness cases, and various reasons the number had gone up like this. and then second wave of COVID, some more number had gone up. So it becomes 1 in 4 in India people who are living with the mental illness at any given time. So if a family unit is four and 1 in 4 has this uh, mental illness, that means the entire population of the country is affected. So we form the society. We have to take the initiative. At least we should stop believing in stigma ourselves. I mean, if some guests come to meet, so I should not tell my daughter that you go to the room and don't sit with them. So that has to end. You see, as there are other illnesses, physical illnesses, which you don't hide, perhaps about cancer, some people try to hide that. So why should we hide this mental illness? It is not a crime which we have done, not a theft, not a dacoity. So their involvement in everything, all social functions is important. You see the books which I have written, two books on mental illness and caregiving, and one experiences of persons who are living as caregivers. I invariably give my daughter's photo along with mine. So to your question that what difficulties we are facing and what we should do, I would say that this model which we have now, it should be replicated. It should be
Hmm.
everywhere, and that will help. We have a huge number of family caregivers, and they should understand the illness. And this stigma removal also, I think one has to be very careful. Some of our people, they say that stigma should be removed, and they dig out those terms and words and phrases which are obsolete now. Nobody talks about that. So you are digging out those words and introducing them in the society like lunatic, idiot. These words, no one uses that. So let them remain buried. That's what I feel.
Hmm. Hmm. Sure. And as we move forward in terms of the mental health challenges and the caregivers, do you think that the society or the government has taken enough care for caregivers to have some policies or to have something that would keep them safe emotionally, mentally? Do you see that happening in the future, in the next coming years? Do we even care about caregivers? Bhavna?
So, thank you very much, Amritji, because I would share with you the experience. I think that you're absolutely right. Support groups are difficult to do in person. You need to be close by, people are free at different times, etc. So I think running them on in an asynchronous mode, maybe using technology, so using WhatsApp, which is very popular, or maybe some other technology, to let people be flexible, is certainly a better mode than the meetups are definitely harder. They have their own benefit, but not everybody is able to attend. And of course, you need many, many, many support groups like Alcoholic Anonymous has and runs in all parts of the world. So you could go to any part of the world and join a meeting if you are, a member. Having said that, coming to the point that you are asking me, Suchita, I think there is a rising awareness, and I would like to believe that all the work that is being done by so many people is being recognized. I think there are multiple stakeholders. It's a complex problem for us in a shifting in a changing world. The pandemic certainly brought front and center the need for the challenges of caregiving. Everything that we went through when some loved one was struggling for either an oxygen cylinder or a bed or something, made caregiving alive to everybody on this planet. I mean, if there was a silver lining to the pandemic, it is perhaps this, that the cause of caregiving came front and center for all of us. it's an experience that everybody can relate with. Having said that, it's easier to still go back and say, okay, let the family do the stuff that they are doing already. Why do we need to create? But we are in a shifting world. I do think that there are many challenges and many shifts, even in the Western economies, where people shifted to a very individual way where you had support systems by the government, etc. But people still lean in on families and are coming back to families, because I think in your last days, etc., you want to be with family more than anything else. So I think there is a rising sensitivity and concern. Of course, it is not enough. It needs to be more. Um, there are many more organizations stepping into the cause of older adults, people with vulnerabilities. Organizations are seeing diversity, equity, inclusion being a talk. So I am really hopeful. And I believe that some of the things will shift and change over time. Unfortunately, it may not be fast enough. I do believe that governments will also want to do some things, because family caregivers are a very valuable resource. Our healthcare system depends on them. But if the family caregivers run out of their steam and they are not supported, then it's going to be a big loss to the economy. We know that unpaid care accounts for nearly
Yeah,
a trillion
absolutely.
US dollars.
So basically, I was the last two questions where I was asking about in terms of the guidelines for caregivers, what do we expect? Do you expect something from the government or the organizations that are working in the space to consider the guidelines to take care of the mental health of caregivers? Yeah.
So it is very important that government should meet their obligations. You see now this last general election, one of the funder, they approached the government and all the political parties saying that include in your manifesto that you will implement the Mental Health Care Act. So only two out of seven, eight All India parties agreed to that, and they had included it. But what government should do, that is not being done. That
Just
is
give me
very
some time,
unfortunate.
we'll come back.
Now, you see, as per the act, the patients who have recovered, they should not be kept in the mental health hospitals. They should be released from there. And the courts are also insisting that these hospitals should release the patients who are living there for 10 years or 15 years. So these people, some of them have no place to go. You see, their relatives tell them that we don't want you back. Some people say that they were so much tortured by their families that they don't want to go there. And some people have forgotten the place where their families lived. So these people have to be put somewhere. They have to be rehabilitated. So Bunyan is doing it in a big way. We have also doing in a small way. Some in a pilot project, some 10 such patients who were released from the mental hospitals and have no care, have no place to go. We have kept that. So that is the position. Both state governments and central government are not doing thing in this regard. Uh, so one cannot expect much from the government. For them, it is not a major thing which will get them votes. So whatever little is to be done has to be done by NGOs, and that is being done.
Yeah. So, what are a couple of things, a few things, five to six, Amarji,
See,
things that should be taken care by the NGOs or people who can voice it out for the caregivers? What are the few things that needs to be done for the mental health of caregivers?
yes. See, rehabilitation is most important. Those who are homeless, for them also, and those who are staying with their families, for them also, it is very important, because if 24 hours they remain in home, then also there is aggravation in their mental illness. So they can't do heavy jobs, because heavy jobs again cause problem and symptoms come back. So some small jobs, part-time jobs, if they have some family business, they can be engaged in the family business also. So something has to be done. The other alternative is that these NGOs should run this day rehab centers. So where they come in the morning and go back in the evening, they are engaged in some gainful activities, various activities. They are benefited. They interact with the other patients, so that helps in their recovery. So that is another thing which should be done, and beyond that. I would say that they have to take their medicines regularly. There is no alternative to that. Once they stop taking medicines on their own, then again it will cause a serious problem. Families should see that the medicines are taken regularly, and then what more can I
Yeah,
say? Yeah.
absolutely, Amriji. This is for the one suffering with mental health issues. But
Uh,
what about the family members? What about the family members who are taking
yes,
care of
yes, yes,
these
yes,
people who are suffering from
yes.
mental health? What are a couple of things that the organizations can do for the caregivers like you, somebody like Bhavana who's running a caregiving organization? What can they do for caregivers?
You see, in theory, everybody says that a person with the caregiver has to take his or her own care, and that is very important. And that example is given of the aircraft, where the air hostess tells that you put the mask first on yourself and then on the passenger next to it. So that has become very common. And in our group, some of the family caregivers say that they should take care of their own health. They should go on a short leave. So they should keep themselves engaged, and they should have enough sleep. They should do this, they should do that. But in practice, I can tell you it does not happen. For me, 24 hours are for my daughter, and I can't think of taking care of my health. I am now 82, so this is God's grace. I have not taken any care for myself. I have neglected myself, because all that I want to do is for my daughter. And as you know, I am now running help groups. I get phone calls every day, some 20, 30 calls I get from caregivers. They want advice, they want help. So all my 24 hours go in helping the families who have a family member with mental illness. So personally, you see, I give advice to some people that you take care of your own health, and whereas I'm not doing that for myself, so that advice may not have much effect. So that's all I can
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
Okay, in
Hmm.
reality, how much they are able to take care of them, some they do take care of themselves, but most of them, I think, are not able to. If
Hmm.
there is violence, aggression, and things like this happening, neighbors are complaining, then where is the scope for taking your own care?
Hmm. Bhavna, coming to you in terms of what are the couple of things that the government or organizations like yours can do to take care of caregivers or any law that needs to be implemented?
So I think Amritji highlighted something very significant, which is that it is not a matter of political concern because this isn't a vote bank, right? Why isn't the family caregiver a vote bank? For a variety
Hmm.
of reasons. One,
Hmm.
you're caring for a set of people who are perceived as not so productive, right? Whether it is, it seems that people with mental illnesses are not contributing to society. It seems that people who are old and who need care are not contributing to society. So somebody who's caring for them is
Hmm.
not doing something for the economy.
Hmm.
What I'd like to propose is that when people think about only themselves, then we have a compassion deficit society. that is a problem. When we do not have enough compassion, then we do not have enough innovation. And that is a problem. Because people understand economy and metrics and performance and these things, I'm happy to explain it in that language. I think it is very important that we have different types of people with different life experiences because that is what makes our society rich and that is what makes us innovative and that is what moves economies. So if you want to understand it in that language, here's that language for you. And I believe that just like in the US, healthcare is a political agenda. It is important that in a democracy like India, people make healthcare our political agenda more than other issues. Yeah. Education, employment, healthcare should be our reasons for selecting our leaders more than other reasons. And we are lucky to be in a democracy and we can make that change if we want to. Because all of us are caregivers. Whether we are caregivers today actively or not, one way or the other, we will be caregivers. One way or the other, we will need caregiving. Who is to say that I will not have a mental health challenge uh, in 2 days? Nobody knows, right? I could need care. And if my society doesn't have that infrastructure, I'm not providing for myself. I could also be somebody who needs to care for someone who's my loved one. And whatever work I'm doing can, be out of the window because it's of no use. I would be very invested in caring for my loved one. So it is in my interest, especially those people who are not active caregivers, to make sure that the voice of caregivers is heard because it is the very foundation of our economy. It is the very reason we are human beings and it contributes to everything.
Yes, so it's very
Yeah.
important that we pay attention. The government pays attention to caregiving and caregivers, also specifically when it comes to mental health, mental illnesses. Thank you so much, Amrit sir. I really appreciate your time and Bhavna for taking our time and being part of this. Thank you so much.